Welcome back everyone to the place where we make things. My name is Jackie and today we're going to be making appliques. This is actually a pairing video that goes along with the hooded scarf videos which I'm continuing to put on this month. But I figured this there's so many intricate pieces in every applique that I felt like this deserved a video on its own. So if you stay tuned, I'll show you how to make them.
Step 1 is to iron out your pattern. I know it's a completely tedious act, but ironing out your pattern helps it to lay down flat on top of your fabric, as well as making all the lines visible. So you want to make sure you get rid of every wrinkle.
Take your pattern piece and cut a replica in both the fabric and interfacing. So altogether you'll have 2 pieces to work with. Place your fusible webbing paper side down. Then place your fabric on top of it. Place a dry drop cloth on top, making sure not to move the fabric, and place your hot iron on it. Press for 5 to 8 seconds, then keep moving across the fabric until both the interfacing and fabric are adhered to each other. Your product should come out something like this. A piece of fabric with a piece of paper on one side. But don't remove the paper just yet because we are not finished. When you get done with that, go ahead and cut out your pattern. Now, like my grandma says, don't cut out your pattern exactly on the line. You want to do it as close to the line as possible on the outside so that you don't ruin the pattern for later, just in case you want to remake this again. So here's something I did that wasn't in the pattern instructions. I duplicated my pattern. Say later on I want to remake this pattern. Well, I can't do that if I cut it into little tiny pieces, can I? My solution, I traced it. I pressed my pattern against the window and I traced it on a white sheet of paper. Therefore, I had a duplicate of my pattern to use as a guideline, and my pattern was kept intact. Take a piece of tape, placing it on the right side of your pattern, then place the right side of your pattern against the paper side of your pattern. From there, you want to either trace and cut, or you can just cut free-handed. It's up to you. You want to make sure you don't cut on the line and get it as close as possible. Now take your pattern, and in this case, you actually want to cut out the center of the flower, just not where the stem belongs. Now you want to make a couple of really small dots. I'm going to zoom in here so you can actually see these small dots that I used as a guide, so therefore when I cut the face of the flower out, I know exactly where to put it. With the stem, I use the pattern as a guideline to mark on the actual face of the stem, because that part of the stem is not going to be seen once it's ironed down. Before we move on, I figured I'd tell you there's actually 2 ways to assemble your art. There's the correct pattern way to do it and the way that I'm going to show you how to do it. According to the pattern, you can take each and every piece. So say if you're starting with like your mushroom, you'd start with like the green piece and you'd iron it down with your iron on steam setting on the highest setting, and you'd steam it down because it needs that moisture to adhere to the fleece. And then you'd do the same thing with each and every piece on top of the green piece. So you'd start with maybe this piece, and then this piece, and then that piece, and then onward, forward from there. But the problem I found was that when I use my iron on my fleece, I use a blizzard fleece, so it's more fluffy. And because I ironed it, I'm actually because I ironed it, I actually ended up ironing out all the fluffiness in my fleece. So I didn't like the end product, what it gave me. It was just like everything else was more fluffy. And then I got down to where the applique was, you could see like the hard line of where I ironed it. And all that steam, I don't know, it just kind of ruined the fluffiness of it for me. On top of that, it's a lot easier to go ahead and assemble your piece beforehand. So therefore you know, oh, if this doesn't fit together, this piece isn't right. It's easier for you to go ahead and just cut around and get the edges even, because human error is just inevitable. But it's easier to go ahead and just cut around, say like this white piece and this green piece, this white piece is already hanging off a little bit. So before I would iron it down, I go ahead and just trim it up. So therefore, when it gets on my final project, it's flawless. Alright, so when you have all your pieces together, we can go ahead and assemble it. Taking the yellow face piece, you want to peel off the paper backing and then place it on top of the red head piece. It is within the guidelines, so you don't see the pencil mark, as well as having it as center as possible. Taking your dry iron, you want to press on the yellow face piece, making sure that the glue completely adheres to the red head piece. And you want to do the same process with the eyes as well. What you'll notice is that we are not going to put the flower piece together. In this way, I wanted to follow the instructions and go ahead and iron down the stem piece and then use the guidelines that we use from the pattern in the correct position and then iron that all down with steam. But when it comes to something like the mushroom where it's one cohesive piece, you can go ahead and add all of that together, which is what I did, because just in case I screw up the final project. Thank you guys for joining me today. I hope that you learned a lot and that hopefully I cleared up a few issues with the pattern. I know that altogether that the pattern has two different sets of instructions between the webbing and the pattern itself. And I know that I was a little bit confused and I had to rewrite a lot of things just to be able to make this video. So hopefully it helps you to be able to complete your project. Anyways, thank you guys so much for joining me today. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, pictures of your projects, please let me know. You can leave all your questions and everything down below. And you can also follow me on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter. All that's down there too. Anyways, thank you guys so much for joining me. And I'll see you next time. Bye!